Well, good morning.
Good morning.
How many of you here today want to take your business to another level? With that being said, how would you like to align that with optimal wellness and thriving relationships? Having all three to where you want it to be. Raise your hands. All right. So what we're going to talk about is a process that can get you to that, what we just talked about. And it's through the art of mindfulness and mastering your inner critic. Who can define for me what mindfulness is? What does that mean to you?
Being in the present moment.
Okay, yep. Anybody else? Nobody else? Consciousness, there you go. Being conscious to what's going on in the moment, right? So we're going to be talking about the concept of mindfulness and then mastering your inner critic that will help you to get to the root cause that may be holding you back in certain things that you do. Maybe perhaps you're not where you want to be in your business. Perhaps your wellness is not where you want it to be, or your relationships. We're going to get to the root cause and we're going to discuss the process that will allow you to do that. But let's get some energy going in the room here. I want to just really get that word mindfulness into your brain. So what I want you to do is I want you guys to say mindfulness. And this is perfect because we got 3 tables. Ready? Mindfulness. Go around. Go again. Mindfulness. One more time. All right, one more time in synchronization. Mindfulness. All right. Mindfulness. So being in the moment. So one of the things about being in the moment and being present in mindfulness is that it creates clarity, number one. Clarity is so important when you're able to be mindful. And I'm going to be sharing some stories with you today that's going to bring this all to light. Another thing that it does is it allows you to be more decisive. Think about it. I mean, when we have major decisions in our life, whether it be in our business, our personal life, do we ever tend to waffle a little bit, maybe go back and forth, ask people for their opinions? We're not as decisive, right?
Nope.
So a lot of this has to do with being mindful. We're not mindful enough. And we're going to talk about a little bit about how to get into that process in a little bit. Another important factor of being mindful is the ability to follow through. And follow through is so important in everything you do in your business. Follow through is important in what you do with taking care of your overall wellness. And when I say wellness, I'm not just talking about physical wellness. I'm talking about emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, occupational wellness, social wellness, environmental, intellectual, and so forth. There's 8 pillars of wellness. Now, I won't be able to go through all of those today because we only have a short period of time, but that's a whole thing I do as well that talks about that area. So follow through is so important because if you're going to get to where you want to be and maintain that for sustainability, follow through is going to play an important role. And that is such an important byproduct of learning to be mindful. So that being said, how do we go about being mindful? Okay, so it's a process. Sometimes we don't know what holds us back. Have you ever thought about that? Like, I know what I want to do. I know I want to be here, but I just can't seem to get there. Yeah, blind spots, right? Because fear, exactly. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's stress. Fear and stress is a byproduct of your past. Anxiety is a byproduct of projecting something into the future. And what anxiety does is it produces, this is why we procrastinate, right? I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, and then a year goes by and you're still right where you are. Nothing's changed. But learning to be mindful takes you into the present moment. You're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're focused on the tasks at hand at that moment. And you're able to then move forward, stepping out of your comfort zone towards the goals that you strive to go for, whether that be with your wellness, with your business, or with your relationships, or all 3. So learning how to do that. Now, that's not an easy thing. You know, it's easy. I'm saying all this and it sounds, wow, that's great, Chris, but in reality, that's not an easy thing to do. Yes, mindfulness takes work. And I'm going to discuss with you the process, how you can go about learning to be mindful, and it's called mastering your inner critic. That's what's in your guide there, what we're going to be talking about. And before I get into the process, I want to give you a little bit of background about me, where this led to, and then I'm also going to talk to you about a former client of mine that really will illustrate and drive home this process of mastering your inner critic so you can learn to be mindful every day of your life. So to give you a little background, over 20 years ago, I had reached a point of, I guess, no return. I had hit rock bottom. And I had struggled throughout my teen years and through my early, mid-20s with anger. I didn't know where it came from, but I was just a very, very angry person. I was very rebellious in high school and college. I exhibited behaviors that got me into a lot of trouble. I struggled with addiction. And it wasn't just drugs or alcohol, sex, food. It didn't matter what it was. It was just something that would medicate the anger to offset it. That was my true addiction. So when you look at people that are addicted, it's not, maybe yes, they may have be addicted to the substance in some way, but the true addiction is the negative emotion tied to it. Anger, jealousy, envy, shame, guilt, any combination thereof. Mine was anger, but I didn't know where it came from. But I knew I couldn't play the victim role anymore. I had to now accept responsibility that all these bad things that were happening in my life, that maybe somehow I had something to do with it. Not that I did it deliberately, but maybe somehow I was giving off some energy, or the thoughts that were in my head were going, now the universe was picking up, and we continued to create situations that would allow me to experience this anger over and over and over again. I needed to make changes. So what I did is I joined a 12-step program. I adopted the Eastern meditation philosophy, and I began to kind of toy with both and found a combination that really worked for me. And that was meditation, where I would get my brainwave at a theta level, so I could really start to connect where the source of my problem was. And I utilized some of the 12-step program, like writing down my moral inventory, to really begin to see where the root cause was to my issues. And what I found was that in time, as I was going through this meditation and I was going through the journaling, I began to look at myself from a third-party perspective. I was actually looking at me as I were another person, where I couldn't have done that before. And this took time. And I began to trace back, connect the dots, and I began to see all the things that would make me angry were trigger events, but actually weren't the root cause. It was my father. My father was very critical. He was emotionally distant. He was never there at any of my ball games or anything that I accomplished where you expect your dad to be. My mom was there, but not my father. But I didn't realize that bothered me up until that point. Now, my dad was dying of cancer at that point. He was 56 years old. See, he had his own root cause. His root cause took his life. And I said, this is not going to take me out. Because that was the road I was going down. I had almost died twice of alcohol poisoning in my 20s as a way to escape my anger. So I knew cancer took my father, but something else wasn't going to take me. I was going to learn from it. I was going to pass on this legacy to my future kids, that this would not repeat itself over and over, because the same thing happened to my father that he learned from his father, my grandfather. So I went through this process, and I was able to overcome this anger. But what I'd like to do is I want to share with you a story that's going to, I think, maybe connect with people more as a whole, because in this case, this is going to be a situation where this person didn't have really a major problem from his past. But maybe it will touch with you, and it was a client of mine. And this is going to really drive home what we're going to talk about the process as I get into it. I had a guy that came to me 4 years ago. He wanted to release 50 pounds. That's all he came to me for. He'd been struggling with his weight for years. He tried every program in the book, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem. He'd have a little, he'd lose some weight, and it would come right back again. Why? Do those programs solve the problem? No, they manage the problem. They manage the problem. Just like you take prescription medication, it manages the problem, but does it solve it? No. The only thing that could solve your problem is you. Yes, there's great products and services out there that will help facilitate that, but in itself are not going to solve your problem. No one can solve your problem. So he actually, when he came to me, he had that mindset already that he wanted to commit to the process, which was a great thing. So he came to me, and I started getting in deep about his past, his childhood, because that's why he carried this weight. He said, I had a great childhood. Mother and father, we went to church every Sunday. He had a brother and sister. We did things as a family. We went on 2 vacations a year. Wonderful life. There was no trauma. There was no yelling and screaming, nothing. There was no chaos in his life at all. But he was 50 pounds overweight, and he wasn't happy. And he just recently got divorced. Okay? Now we'll get into that in a little bit. So we began to go through this process of meditation and journaling, if you want to call it that. That'll probably be easier for people to identify what I'm talking about. Journaling, writing down what he felt after he meditated every day in the morning. And I remember him coming to me about 3 months later. We had a session, and he started rambling on about something. He's like, oh, I remember when I was a kid, my mother used to tell me to finish my plate because kids in Africa were starving. And he went on and on and on. And all of a sudden I said, stop right there. I said, I knew it was his mother. And I said, can you tell me about your mom? What was truly the relationship with your mother? Great, my mother did everything for me. She was wonderful. He held her on a pedestal. I mean, she was like so very important to him. But I had to kind of just go a little step further, and I said, by any chance, was your mother slightly dominant? And all of a sudden, I get serious, his eyes kind of like a deer in the headlights. He goes, well, yeah, she did everything for us. She used to, pick up our plates after dinner. She used to help us with our homework. She used to, pick up everything in my room. She used to tie my shoes until I was 14. And I'm not kidding you. I swear to God, till 14 years old, he told me that. He was serious. She did everything. So what do you think, in this case with this gentleman, was he enabled?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Now, was it his fault? No. Was it his mother's fault? She thought she was doing good for her son. There was no ill intention, but it was just something that happened. Right? But what ended up happening because of being enabled is it led to behaviors and things why he carried the weight. Now, here's another thing that will come in where this will make all sense. He was in a job that he had been in for 20 years where he had gotten nowhere. He had basically been in the same job for 20 years making very little amount of money for where he started. I mean, his increases were far and few between. Again, because he was enabled. He didn't have to really step out of his comfort zone to exert himself, to put his strengths out there and his skills to take him to another level, to offer more value to people. Because he didn't have to. He always had somebody to catch him. And in this case, that was his wife at the time. His wife was the breadwinner. She did everything in the house. She took care of him. So now let's connect the dots again. Who did he marry? His mom, right? Yeah, he married his mom. Didn't even realize it. And then again, the deer in the headlight look again. Oh my God, I did. But see, he had a great family life, right? Well, he did, in many ways. But these were the things that caused him to do what he did, why he had the results that he did. He got nowhere in his career, and he was 50 pounds overweight. We found out that his addiction or negative emotion, whatever you want to call it, was passive anger. This was anger that he could not understand at the conscious level. He didn't feel angry, but at the subconscious level. And the eating was a form of control. This is why he ate more than 1 or 2 plates at a sitting and didn't even realize what he was doing. It was like on autopilot. So to undo all of this, we had to go through a process of taking him through steps to release the root cause, to make amends with his mother, who at the time he didn't think, I don't feel like I have to apologize to her. She was wonderful. But he had to do it. Not only for her, but for him. Because it was the only way he was going to be able to move forward. And by doing that and resolving the root cause, he was able then at that point to be open to finding his solution towards his purpose. And this is where new habits, behaviors, and disciplines could now be reprogrammed. Because he had been meditating at the theta wave level, his mindset or brain became like clay, that we could begin to now mold it in a way that would work towards where he wanted to go. So we're going to be able to shed some of the old habits and behaviors that did not serve him to adopt better habits, behaviors, and disciplines that could take him to where he wanted to be. Now flash forward, this guy now is 50 pounds less, right? He has kept the weight off because he's established these habits, behaviors, and disciplines, and it's been accountable every step of the way. And that's the one thing I want to stress, accountability. He was accountable from day one because he made the commitment. The commitment has to be 100% or more. I don't know if there's more than 100%, but you get where I'm going. But 100%. It can't be like, well, I'll try it. No, try is a word that you need to eliminate from your vocabulary when you go through this process. Want has to be eliminated. You will. You will. Because again, the problem and the solution resides in you. No one else. Somebody like me, I can't fix anybody. I can guide you through the process. Just like a lot of people that are here that are coaches and provide services. We can provide our services to guide people, but it has to be, the people have to be committed to go through that process to make it happen. So once he was able to do this, he began to start seeing changes. Again, 50 pounds less, and he began for the first time to start stepping out of his comfort zone and work. And 4 years later, he's making 3 times more than he made for the first time in his life. His life completely changed. And I haven't talked to him recently, but at the last time I talked to him, he was dating a woman who was completely opposite of his first wife. So it was a healthier relationship, right? It was interdependent, not dependent. He grew up in a dependent environment. He was dependent upon his mother his whole life. He was dependent upon his first wife up until that point. He was never able to be independent or interdependent. Now, interdependent is much better than being independent. But in this case, he's now got the right skills, habits, and disciplines in place to be interdependent. And he can't just say, hey, now that I've done it, it's, I don't have to worry about anything anymore. No, this is ongoing. So everything what I talked about, the meditation, I talked about the journaling, this is something that he'll do for the rest of his life, just like I do. And then I'm accountable for every day. I have accountability partners I talk to 3 times a week. Matter of fact, I had one of them call me today and said, hey, we talking at 8:30? I said, no, I'm going to be talking in front of a group of people, so we have to talk later tonight. And he was okay with that. But this is a process that is ongoing. Because here's the thing I want to stress. When you look at sustainable success, and it happens that I have a radio show named by that, and Asha's been on my show. And she's a great guest, by the way. I mean, she's going to be on again. That if you want to have sustainable success, you have to commit to the process because it's a process. It's not the outcome that you should be always looking at. Yes, you want to have the outcome. You want to focus on that's your end. But if you're not committed and focused on the process, the outcome you desire will not happen. The outcome is a byproduct of the process. And a lot of people do not commit themselves to the process. They want the result now. What I'm talking about with you here today, and I'm going to get into more about the process here in a few minutes, is it doesn't happen overnight. And the time frame can be different for different people. So for you, it could take 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. It could take 2 years. Doesn't matter. Because as long as you're committed to the process, you're growing and moving through towards your true, better self every step of the way. So I'm going to go through the process for you. So to kind of recap what we talked about with my story and the story about one of my clients. Number 1 is getting to the root cause. Now, when people ask me, what does that mean, root cause? Well, I was a purchasing materials management major in college. I had a minor in aerospace engineering. So I spent most of my career in aviation. We talked about that, with Wichita, which has got a lot of aviation. And when I was going through, school, I was trained on the root cause analysis. This was a manufacturing concept. Finding the root cause to where the bottlenecks were in the manufacturing process. So I began to really look at it and began to identify that it's no different than what we do in our lives and what we do in our businesses. It's the same concept, same principles. We have to remove the bottlenecks and the clutter that's here. Now, remember we talked about mindfulness having clarity, right? How can you operate being efficient, productive, and taking your business and your life to another level if there's clutter inside your head and you're not operating from clarity? Do you think that's possible? No. And will it be sustainable? Absolutely not. Clarity. So in order to have that clarity, we have to resolve the root cause to the problem first before we can move towards the solution. So we talked about the root cause being something that usually comes from childhood. So usually it's a parent. It could be a mom or dad, but there could be many causes to the root cause. So for me, what mine was anger. I mean, I could be cut off in traffic and I could go ballistic. I mean, I got to the point where I would pull people over and have a fist fight. That's how bad it was. I'm not, God honest truth, I did that one time at 23 years old. Thank God I didn't get arrested. And the other guy was just like me because he was doing the same thing. But what I'm trying to say is, do you think that gentleman that cut me off when we got into the fight was why I was really angry? Because here's the thing, at the time I didn't know it. When we got into that fight, when I threw a punch at this gentleman, I wasn't hitting him. I was hitting my father. And didn't know it. Didn't even know it at the time. So there was a lot of triggers. And there could have been other causes, other people that I perceived that wronged me. You know, a coach when I was 16 because I had long hair and he kicked me off the baseball team. I still played senior league and I was able to get a pre-scholarship to Arizona State anyway. So, but in any event, but he judged me. So you could sit there and say that I looked at this, that he could have been my root cause. No, he was one of the causes, but it all went back to my father. And I had to follow that trail back to where the source was and forgive my father. Truly forgive, like from every core of my body. And not only for him, but for me to move forward. And when I was able to do that and release that, when things that would normally, those triggers that would happen to make me angry, I would feel angry for just a very short period of time, maybe a couple minutes, tops, no more than that, and it would go away. It would melt away. Whereas before, it would linger for a day, 2 days, 2 weeks, a month. It could stay with me for months. And we talked about that. It can happen. But in this case, it would just go away. And I could go right back into the positive emotions of peace, joy, love, where I could then have that clarity to make better decisions and to follow through towards my mission. And we talked about clarity, we talked about being decisive, we talked about following through. Those 3 principles of mindfulness are the result of mastering your inner critic, resolving the root cause. Now that in itself, once we move in towards the solution, there's more work to be done. We need to step out of our comfort zone. So you need to look at certain things that normally you don't like to do, but are necessary as part of your path towards where you want to be. So if you want to release weight, there are going to be certain things that you need to do to get there. Nothing is just going to come in and just make it go away. If you want your business to go to another level, you're going to have to do certain things that you normally haven't done or felt uncomfortable to do that. So if part of your business is sales, okay, and you got to sell, and you're afraid to speak, well, maybe you got to put yourself up here and try speaking. And it's okay if you don't do well. I wasn't always a great speaker. I had problems. It took me a while before I could actually go up here. So with that being said, I want to go through a couple steps because we're getting near the end here. So as you go, you always, every week, you want to do something that you feel uncomfortable, that is necessary towards your goal where you want to go. Number 3, you want to be able to step into your fear continuously. Fear is just an illusion, okay? Something that is a byproduct of what is taking place in the past, and now you're in the present moment. Learning how to be in the present moment will offset that feeling of fear. But use the fear as a motivator to go forward. Okay? Number 4 is you want to be able to develop a life and business strategy. Now, too many people have their business goals and their life goals. They're separate, two separate buckets. They should be one. Because, think about it, if you do everything for your business and neglect what you do for your wellness and your relationships, do you think that's going to have an impact on your business? And vice versa? They got to be combined. We have some relationship experts here too. I'm sure they'll shed insight on that today. There they are back there. Okay? So this is something that and it's got to be very specific. You need to break it down daily. It can't be a vague goal. It's got to be, the words have to be, very specific. They have to be time-oriented. And they have to be broken down daily. So those daily attainable goals will roll up weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually to where you want to be. So you have to know every day what you're going to do. You're going to meditate in the morning. You're going to make your bed in the morning. I didn't get into that because we don't have much time, but I'm happy to talk a little bit more specific about that offline, and I'll tell you what I do daily with my habits to lead me towards sustainability with success in my life. So got to be daily attainable goals. That should be your focus in the moment, and laser focus on each task that you do daily. You're not projecting what happened last week, you're not looking back at what happened last week, and you're not projecting what you have to do tomorrow. You're in the zone today on this task for the next 50 minutes. After that's done, you move forward. That's how you have to start thinking if you're looking for sustainability, for success in your life. Next, you want to continue to invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Whether that be time or money, whatever is going to make you a better person. Okay? Again, there are great resources out there. They're not going to solve your problem, but they're going to help you. You can only solve your problem. But invest in the resources that are going to take you to where you want to go. And finally is accountability. We talked about accountability. You need to be accountable from every step of this process and for the rest of your lives. We don't have much time, but I want to, just for the next few minutes, who has questions that I can answer for them? Brody?
Your morning ritual.
My morning ritual is I wake up in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I make my bed. Sometimes I accidentally cover my wife, but no, I'm joking. She can breathe. Then I go down and I meditate for 20 minutes. I journal, write down what came to mind. I then eat a banana. I go work out. I come back. I eat a healthy breakfast, and I start my day. I do that every day, unless for some reason I'm traveling overseas, and I modify that somewhat. Depends on the time zone.
How about when you meditate, what's the environment? Do you have a special room that you allow yourself to meditate in, or do you go outside?
It's a combination, but mostly there's a special place in my house that I do it, or if I happen to be in a hotel, I find a place that it's quiet. And I have a theta wave tone. It's like a tone that, and there's some calming music in the background, and it gets my brain wave to align with that theta wave level. And I do that for 20 minutes. So a quiet place. I also like to drive in my car. That's kind of like a moving meditation where I'm just me, and I'm driving around a country road, and I'm just, being in the moment, enjoying everything around me. Any other questions? I know we only have a few minutes. Go ahead.
Can you go through the steps one more time, Chris?
Yes. So it's resolving the root cause, embracing change, stepping into your fear, connecting with your why. We didn't get it. Well, I didn't have enough time to talk about that.
You got about 15 minutes.
Well, I got 15 minutes.
Yeah, the 5 was like 5 minutes left to speak.
Oh, 5 left to speak. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, my bad.
My bad.
So let me get to the connecting to the why. Okay, so I was under the impression I only had 5 minutes left to go, and I want to be conscious of everyone's time because we have other speakers. So when we talked about resolving the root cause, and we talked about embracing change, stepping out of your comfort zone, during that process, we're going to be able to determine what our true purpose is, what our why is. Why do we do what we do? Would we do this if we were making no money? I do this. I will absolutely do this. If I couldn't make any money, I'd still do it because that's who I am. The money is energy. It will come as a result of my passion, what I do. Somebody will see the value, and the money comes from that area. I'm not worried about that. So follow your heart, follow your purpose, not somebody else's. And it's got to come from inside. But that clutter is there, and you're operating from the problem rather than the solution, you're never going to fulfill your purpose. You're always going to have one foot in, one foot out, and you're not going to follow through with that. So that being said, that was that. And then, developing your life and business strategy, investing in you, and then being accountable. So 7. I did bring my book, so if anybody wants to, look at it, you're more than happy to. I do have it in my bag. So what I'd like to do is, again, I wanted to use this for any other questions, because I think it's always helpful to make it more interactive so that we can reinforce what I've just talked about that can maybe help you. Brody, go ahead.
Do you have any other tips for refining your purpose?
Yeah, I would say that it's one of the things you do is when you're writing down things through meditation, a lot of times things are going to come up that could be the craziest things in the world. You'd be like, what the heck did I just write? I mean, I can't show people this. They're going to think I'm crazy. But sometimes with those thoughts that you write down can reveal hints to your true purpose. So don't discredit them at all. And that's a great technique to find what your purpose is. You'll know it's your purpose because you just know that when you wake up out of bed, you want to do it. And any judgment from others, it won't hinder you from pursuing it. Because there are going to be critics. There are going to be people who are going to tell you you're crazy. Why are you doing that? And sometimes it could be your own significant other. I see it all the time. Matter of fact, in network marketing, I see it all the time. People that are in network marketing companies, they're dedicated, and their spouse is against it, and they're constantly trying to get them out of it. And then once that person starts having success, I knew you could do it. Now all of a sudden now they're on your side, because all they care about is they wanted the outcome. They weren't committed to the process. So again, that's just a little tip, for me.
What's the biggest thing that you use to resolve the spouse conflict? That's something I see a lot too.
Yes, exactly. What I say is, to always communicate, and you can't control what the other person is going to do. And in some cases, I've coached people where sometimes it doesn't work out. Maybe once they find once they resolve the root cause, they find out who they are. They find out they're with the wrong person. And I'm not here. We're not. And I'll let Brody. You guys are going to talk about that, but you can only control. You got to follow your purpose. The person whoever's going to react to it, that's their problem. I don't care if it's your husband or wife, your mother or father, whatever, your kids. That is their doing, their responsibility, not yours. Focus on yourself. So, hope that answered your question, Stephen. Okay. Anybody else?
How did you sell yourself to as a wellness advocate and to the entrepreneurs and those kind of things?
How did I sell?
Yeah, when you got to the point where
Yes.
you did that and start that.
Well, the whole idea for me was to say that, I'm not here to market to people just to sell products. I'm not here to tell you I'm going to solve your problem, because I can't. I can only provide you the tools and the process to do it yourself. That I want to show people that everybody in this room or anybody anywhere has it inside of them to solve their own problem and to create their own solutions. That you just need that little push. You need that guidance. That's what motivated me to go out there and put that message out there. That's why I have a radio show that helps to articulate that. I have, I go to mastermind groups like this, online, on social media, putting that out there. So I'm just always creating the awareness to let people know in many different levels. It's because some people connect in different ways, but it's really about the communication.
So you're getting your clients on a lot of different ways.
It's through referrals, through social media.
The show.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that uses like marketing funnels, trying to rope people in that way. I mean, there are people that do that and they do very well, but that's not what I do. That's not what I want. I want to connect with people that see the value. Yes, they want the end result, no question. I want to make $1 million, or I want to look fabulous, and I want to feel fabulous. Okay, great, but are you committed to the process? Are you what? And if they're not, then I'm the wrong guy for them. If you want the outcome and that's all you care about, and then there's plenty of other people that are good for that. Somebody out there. But if you're managing out of the problem, that sustainability, there's going to be a rocky road. You might have glimpses of success for here and there, and then you're going to go right back, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride. I'm a firm believer. I've experienced it. Yes.
I work with a lot of NFL and former, NFL alum.
Oh, yeah.
And we sort of reach this almost like a ceiling sometimes. When you've achieved, you've played pro ball like he has, for example. You reach this plateau and there's this mindset. I sometimes find it difficult to get that breakthrough. It's all in the mind.
It's all in the mind.
I realize that. But once you've achieved a certain level of greatness, a lot of them just see like, oh, it's all downhill from here. And all the other pro ball players will tell them, oh, you'll just end up playing pro ball in Canada, right? And they have this process. But I've managed to find a way, because it's almost like finding their purpose again, even though it's the same thing. It's like, how would you maneuver around? It's a really difficult space.
Well, you're exactly right, and I mean you've seen it in the news all the time, especially in the music industry. I mean, you saw Chris Cornell and the guy from Linkin Park. They had all this success, but they had rocky past. They had troubled childhoods. It was never addressed. They escaped it through drugs and alcohol and fame. Once the fame subsided and they got into their, looking at themselves again, they couldn't live, and they succumbed to it. And I've seen it, like you said, we've seen it with sports figures. Their whole lives have revolved around their talent and their ability to play the game. And once it was over, well, there's nothing else I can do. But there is. That's not just who they are. They're just not physically just a football player or a baseball player, a basketball player. They're more than that. You look. It's in the mind. That skill can be applied to something else. And there are some sports figures that do apply it later on. They give back. They're involved in charities. They work with youth to develop leadership skills. Because you think about football. My son's in football, and I'm a football coach. I'm also a baseball coach. But I'm not expecting my son's going to become a professional football or baseball player. But if he does, great. But it's the skill, it's the values, and the leadership skills that he will develop being part of the game, that he could use, whether if he does play professional sports, that he can carry on later, or if he doesn't, he can utilize it in whatever he chooses to do in his career of choice or his business of choice. So the key is to really let them know that they're okay where they're at and that they still have a purpose. And they just have to now shift that focus away from the game because it's over. Physically, they can't perform at that level anymore. It's now we have to apply the mindset and the skills and talents and strengths that you have to something else that you could add value and help other people. And then that helps you. Still got a little to?
Still got 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes. Wow, I'm doing good. All right. Anybody a last minute question? One more? Squeeze in there?
I think he called it, not to backtrack, but he says reinventing yourself.
Reinventing yourself.
That's the angle that I take.
No, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with reinventing ourselves. Because there's many different facets of who we are. And the thing is that, but again, if you're caught up, if the root cause and the problem is still there, it's always going to be there trying to drag you down and take you out. And in many cases, this is why you've seen so many suicides lately from some famous people. It's because they've succumbed to their root cause. My father, I'm convinced, he didn't die of cancer. He died of cancer, but he died 6 months before the doctors projected him that he would die. I think he willed himself to die. He was emotionally unstable. He never addressed his root cause, and he lost the will to live at 56 years old. And he chased the shiny objects his whole life. He became very, very successful, made a lot of money, but he had thrown away everything else. He threw away his family, threw away his wellness, the sacrifice, and I think he just was lost. And I said to myself, that will not happen to me, and that will not happen to my son. My son can choose what he wants to do, but I'm giving him the values and the beliefs that are necessary for him to have a chance to succeed in his life.
I'm gonna change it a little bit.
Sure.
Do you mind talking about the radio show a little bit? Does anyone in here do podcasts, radio?
No, but I want to
All right.
Who would like to?
Yeah. I have a show called Sustainable Success. It's on the Voice America Influencer channel. So it's the second largest internet radio platform in the world. It's based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Asha's been on the show. And
By the way, fantastic experience.
you're,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Yeah, we're gonna have her on again. She's a great personality. Listeners loved her.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a great way if anybody's thinking about radio, or it could be TV or podcasts, whatever. It's just a great way to communicate with your audience, to really communicate your message. Again, it's serving your purpose. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm not doing this because I want to be, I want to get all this attention. It's about communicating the message to create the awareness. I can't change anybody. And I'm not going to exert myself to try to change anybody, because that's just an endless task that will never happen. I can only create, I can influence and create awareness for somebody to take the information and to implement it into their lives to make those changes. And if they do and they need guidance, then somebody like myself, I'm happy to work with them and help them. Just like you do what you do, and with people that could use your services, the same thing. But trying to change, try to change them and try to impose on them and say that everything I'm saying is right, no. Because I'm an advocate. I'm just giving you facts, and you have to draw your own conclusions if you feel that resonates with you and will work for you or people you know. But not that I'm saying that this is the end all, like, hey, this is the only way. But I am a believer that it's all inside of us. We have to take that responsibility. The universe has given us a life that we can make choices, and that we create our lives the way we want it to be, whether we know that consciously or subconsciously. So, thank you.